Lino returns to the kitchen to find that Ammachi has taken up the forbidden post by the doorway. Ammachi's eyes are closed, head bowed as she listens through the curtain, gleaning what she can. "What's happening?" Lino asks. Ammachi whirls around, caught but triumphant. "You were wrong. Something good has happened." "How do you know?" "I can tell. Lots of ooh and ah." And though Ammachi flutters her hands to shoo Lino away, Lino spies through the space between the curtain and the door frame. The 2 cups of tang have been abandoned on the table, still sweaty with condensation. Miss Schimpf is now standing in the middle of the room with her back to the kitchen. She is looking down at something cradled in her arms, speaking in a low murmur while Anju nods like a desperate, loyal child. Before Lino can make out their words, Ammachi pulls her from the curtain and forces her to sit at the kitchen table, beyond hearing, lest Miss Schimpf suspect them of being unmannered. 2 weeks later, a newspaper called the Malayala Manorama publishes a photograph of Anju receiving a plaque the size of a small window with her name yet to be engraved. The article explains how she will be given the opportunity to study in New York City for the fall and spring semesters at the Sitwell School, all expenses paid. In the picture, Miss Schimpf and Anju are underexposed, their faces smudgy with gray smiles, joined by the plaque between them. The paper quotes Miss Schimpf, "Anju is a true Renaissance woman, an excellent student, a leader, and a brilliant artist. I am especially thrilled about displaying her artwork during the student art exhibition." Over the next 2 months, friends and acquaintances ask Lino about every detail of Anju's itinerary and jot down phone numbers of their second cousin's neighbor's niece who lives in New York and would be happy to help her. "No trouble at all," they say, patting Lino on the back, quick to claim their New York connection. "We hear your sister is an artist now," they say, smiling. "Of course," Lino says, attempting an equal measure of joy, as though she were the one awarded. "You never know with her. She can do anything she wants to do." Except draw. But there is hardly time to speak to Anju about such things. She is never at home, rushing around to obtain a student visa, a letter from this school to that embassy, transcripts of school records. Just yesterday, she and Melvin arrived home from an overnight trip to the U.S. consulate in Chennai, another city that Lino has never visited. And even when Anju is home, she isn't. She casts her eyes around the walls and ceilings, grazing over every possible object before fleetingly meeting Lino's gaze. Now I'm just going to skip ahead to a short scene at the day before Anju leaves for New York, and they go to church. After 2 somber hours of church, Ammachi enjoys a bit of socializing. Aglow, she flits through the scrum of people that have gathered around the entrance, asking after children, parents, and ailments. But that day, every question pertains to Anju. When is her flight? Which airline? Who is to meet her? Restless, Anju excuses herself, claiming that she has several errands to run, while Lino stays behind to wait for Ammachi and, to her dismay, to act as Anju's spokeswoman. The more Lino laughs and thanks everyone for their well wishes, the more it sounds to her ears as if she is laughing at an ugly, exuberant joke in which she has been made the fool. While Ammachi gossips, Lino makes her way to the nearby cemetery, which is rounded by a short wall, brightly gilded with moss. Teak and tamarind trees fringe the border, shedding dead leaves over the village of crosses and tombs left to bake in the shadeless heat. Lino passes an ivory vault trimmed in pink, a bird-splattered cross planted on top. This is one of the many family tombs that preside above ground, holding 8 to 20 bodies in separate numbered drawers. Those who cannot afford the family tombs are assigned an earthen burial, a mound temporarily marked by a wooden cross. Lino finds Anju crouched before the wooden cross that once marked their mother's place. Anju lays a few weak wildflowers atop the mound, her head bowed, her eyes closed as she prays. Her shawl does not match her salwar, 2 discordant shades of blue. An obvious mistake, but just like Anju to be so careless, and not only with her clothes. 100 prayers wouldn't change her. As Anju rises, Lino asks if all is packed. Anju whirls around. A smile follows, relieved and artificial. Almost done, she says, though she still has to convert her rupees to dollars. Ammachi knows a man who can give them a good exchange rate, under the table, of course, since the banks will rob you blind. And my painting, Lino says, have you packed that too? During the long pause that ensues, Anju's hands fall slowly to her sides. Miss Schimpf wants to put it in some sort of student exhibition. As if it's yours, Lino says. Yes. The softness of Anju's answer, delicate, almost inquisitive, only enrages Lino the more. She saw the tailor's painting, Anju says, and she asked me if I had more. You showed her my sketchbook? The thought surprises Lino even as she says it, as the image returns to her of Miss Schimpf looking down at something in her arms, Anju beside her, hungry for approval. You went through my things and brought her my sketchbook? Anju draws herself up and attempts an innocent expression without remorse, if not for the way she is wiping her hands against each other over and over, long after they are clean. But I'll bring all of it back, with your name on it. I'm trying to help us get somewhere, Lino. I'm trying to change our lives. Your life first, Lino says, by stepping all over mine. And then what will happen when you leave? You will go on and I will be here, only a chapter in your life. Anju stares at the ground, pained but not pained enough. Lino knows the way her sister will continue, the way her temporary regrets, with time, will become trivialities, things she will assign to desperation and youth, if only it were as simple as that. Put that shawl back on its hanger, Lino says, without emotion. You always forget. Anju looks up, cautiously hopeful, but Lino is already walking away. Lino tramples over the mimosas that she and Anju used to tickle as children, watching the edgy fern-like leaves fold at the slightest brush. Praying plants, Anju called them as they shimmered in the wind. After a while, Lino slows her pace, as there are people ahead who will notice her haste and ask her questions, who will hear the tears lodged in her throat. She walks, each step more leaden than the last, toward the distant thrum of voices taking their leave. Thank you.